Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting things to change. Being just another shield tank in the roster and nothing more. Wasting the potential of one of the coolest backstories we ever had for any character in this goddamn game. Having many controversies concerning his kit. This list of unbelievable achievements belongs to none other than Sigma, just like the mathematical sum. The levitating old... No, wait, hold on a second, stop the music. This guy's levitating too? Huh. This reminds me of the Sphere Man, the master of sphere manipulation, a soaring abomination, the living and breathing machine gun. Huh. This reminds me of the Sphere Man. Luckily for us, we have some form of explanation this time, but I'm still not keen on floating men in this game. At least there is one thing I can admire about this guy. He's a very Christian man, throwing rocks at those who have sinned. Also, I'm going to use this occasion to openly ask the very sane people on my Discord, link in the description, why the heck am I getting crucified? This insane eccentric astrophysicist... This insane smart man is one of the most boring tanks in the game. This is why I spent the last few days only playing him to ensure I will, and yes, provide you all with the most accurate, the most entertaining, and above all, the absolute flabbergasting Sigma review! Story. As mentioned in the intro, Sigma has definitely one of the best origin stories out of all heroes in Overwatch 2. What makes him stand out is the high intensity, the small yet existing empathy for how he ended up where he is, but above all an actual attempt at explaining everything about him. Let's start from the beginning. Sigma's story, in my opinion, is best experienced in the official 2D animation, as the article about him is not only very short, especially compared to the entire lore side of Reaper, for example, that is as long as Dream's average tweet, but it is also almost one-to-one with what is presented in the animation, only having one or two additional details. So the entire story of Dr. Siebre... Yeah, I'm not reading that. Is concluded in just two parts. The before the accident and after the accident. How fitting. Before, he was a very talented and gifted scientist. He has been discovering and researching the behavior of gravity. And at last, he concluded Newton was wrong. Struck with the amazing idea to have fun playing with, you know, just a regular black hole, he has prepared everything. The experiment being ready to start on the National Space Station.
One horrified clown watched in the operating theater.
He got to work himself, but as I spoiled a little already, the experiment didn't go as expected. Enter the after accident part, where we are now after the accident. Shocking. Sigma has suffered serious psychological damage and has one of the sickest tracks Overwatch has ever released, playing on repeat in his head. He also enjoys speaking backwards from time to time, and thanks to this amazing talent of his, he got locked up in New Mexico. Why is that funny? I don't know. Being stuck in that facility, he started to develop some sort of Marvel superpower, beginning to control gravity around him because... No, I'm not reading that. Big Bad Talon organization that is responsible for cinema, like Reaper being thrown on the walls and floors and dying, decides to steal the floating old man. They put him in their own prison, but Sigma doesn't suspect a thing because they gave him his own laboratory and some toys. He likes it. Kuiper continued to develop his powers in hopes of unlocking the secrets of the universe. Huh. This reminds me of the Sphere Man, the master of sphere manipulation, a soaring abomination, the living and breathing machine gun. As I said, everything that is written in the detailed article about Sigma is also shown in the very intense and wonderful animation of his origin story. It's great because for a moment you can feel bad for him, as his intentions were not bad from the beginning. This was just an old scientist that wanted to push the limits, but by doing so he drove himself crazy and then got used by the pathetic talent. It's very sad to see all of that being a setup for a mere boring shield tank. To give the best possible and solid analysis of Sigma's design, I will completely ignore the story segment. The towering old dude is always a few centimeters above ground and can fly on command, but decides to not to for some reason, great start. I have no idea why they chose turquoise to be the leading color in his design other than to make something new, and not going to lie here, it fits him perfectly. The enormous shoulder pieces give him an iconic silhouette that haunts me in my dreams, and that's where the compliments end. Starting from the top, his headpiece looks straight up stupid. Through many other skins we can see that this part of his super scientific suit can be done better, but the default skins just scream goofy. Usually I don't do this, but to make this character even more outstanding, they gave him creepy petrifying grey eyes and the XQC nose. A perfect set for a math teacher. Everything else in this entire suit feels boring, but it's still nothing compared to his primary weapon. These two spherical objects can barely count as a weapon. We all enjoy nice symmetrical shapes, but is that really all you've got? Other skins barely change anything, and don't get me started on trying to notice the difference in-game. You know your hero failed in his design department if the weapon dangler is attached to the hand and not the weapon itself. And surprisingly, it's a very common issue. This reminds me of the Sphereman, the master of sphere manipulation, a soaring abomination, the living and breathing machine gun. And of course the unofficial champion in the best feat in the game competition is living his life barefoot. There isn't a single reason why, and I love it. We should do completely random stuff like that more often. The next hero should do another round of the XXL cleavage just like Widowmaker. Oh, and would you look at that? Somehow the second default skin just makes everything worse. The headpiece is looking even dumber, any iconic color scheme is replaced for the sake of white paint, close one simply, and Sigma also got a nice original addition, Depression. The default one skin wins this time. And speaking of skins, there is a huge gap between God tier and crap tier. How can the same character have both of these worlds in one department is a mystery, but if I had to point out 3 best and worst skins, it would go something like this. Flying Dutchman, Rhyme and Overwatch 1 skins are God tier, whereas Dr. the Crap, Prophet and Galactic are Garbanzo. Zarya is beyond stupid with how well she counters everything Sigma does. To understand and get the best possible experience for the review videos, I force myself to play that hero throughout entire games, and as you can see, it went pretty well. I have learned that Symmetra, Mei and Zarya are straight up unbeatable. I would gladly see those gone from the game. Your spam primary weapon? Zarya will abuse that more than Symmetra players abuse closed control points. Your shield? Say goodbye because the microwaving woman will not only melt through it but also heal herself because my ass, and basically everything else in your kit. It's a miracle if your ult kills anyone because Zarya has 2 days to react to bubble her or her teammates. Shockingly, I managed to pull through, but it cost me a lot of patience and peace. This reminds me of my last yoga class. And that reminds me of the Sphereman, the master of sphere manipulation, a soaring abomination, the living and breathing machine gun. If I had to say right now if I enjoyed my playtime on Sigma, I would have to say it was painful. Yet, the more games I played and the more time I spent learning his playstyle, starting to not forget about my barrier and getting used to the smooth tracking of his projectiles instead of my usual flicks, I must say there is potential for this old monolith of a scientist to be a fun hero. But my sanity cannot withstand this utter lack of mobility. My ADHD self-diagnosed mind is unable to comprehend that your playable character has nothing, and I mean nothing, in his kit to squeeze anything movement related. Bastion, Nade Jump, Junkrat, Mind Jump, Pharah, Blast Jump, Sigma, Pulse. His primary weapon feels very boring after the first few matches, because without any fancy reload animation, I begin to feel that I'm stuck in a time loop where I just send out little pathetic pinching orbs for the entire match. The only redeeming factor is that they can bounce in a funny way, leading to some haha moments. Quite frankly, the entire kit of this guy has a giant perk and a giant flaw. Kinetic Grasp, while useful to survive many encounters that would usually end up with you dying, renders you completely useless and locks you out of using other useful abilities like your shield and primary fire. The ult, while very powerful and with huge potential, is easily countered by basically any enemy hero coughing on you. And lastly, the rock. And My bad. The rock is actually flawless. Hitting a fat Dwayne is super satisfying, not because you landed a projectile, it's satisfying because you know the person you just hit is most likely smashing their keyboard, as most of the times the curse of Dwayne is a death sentence. To all of my Sigma male mains out there, yes, I know you exist in some dark alleyways of Switzerland. I totally understand where you find the enjoyment in this hero, but I can safely state that every Sigma main is a psychopath. As to finally reach that enjoyment phase, they had to go through so much pain that, let's just say, an average Sigma main has failed to boil an egg in front of Gordon Ramsay. Conclusion! To summarize Sigma, no pun intended, he is everything good and everything bad at the same time. Having a wonderful and intriguing story, but ending it on a very boring and underwhelming note. His gameplay strongly leaned towards resource management, and projectile aiming can be very fun and very daunting at the same time. Many tanks simply counter you by existing like Zarya or Reinhardt, and there is nothing to learn after you lose a game to a very brawly composition, as all they did was go forward, and you don't have the tools to stop that force. Design-wise, he also beholds some of the best skins in the game, and just... this, Sigma will end up with a score of 1 dragon fruit out of 2 watermelons. Sigma is the definition of mediocrity. If you want to play a shield tank, Reinhardt is always a better option. And if you want to be a crowd control heavy and pokey tank, Orisa is more reliable and her survivability is much more effective with her Fortify, as it doesn't limit her in any way opposite to Kinetic Grasp. That will be the final word of this review, and I will welcome everybody to the quick outro segment. The next few weeks should be very exciting, as I have a plan for the first ever hero review marathon. Every second video for the next few weeks will be your favorite original series, and to roll out the next episode as soon as it's possible, make sure to let me know down in the comments what hero would you like me to review next, and be on the lookout for a vote on my social tab here on YouTube. If you'd like to support my channel, then make sure to share your favorite episode in the series, and if you want to participate in some of my videos, then join the Discord server linked below. That will be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.